Have you ever noticed something strange about disrespect? Two people are insulted in the exact same way. Same words, same tone, same situation. One person explodes with anger, while the other remains calm, almost untouched. Why does this happen? Before you answer, think about your own life. Has someone ever said something small, something seemingly insignificant, yet it stayed in your mind all day? Not because the words themselves were powerful, but because they controlled your emotions long after the moment passed. The Stoics believed that disrespect does not begin with the other person. It begins the moment you react. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic teachers, was born a slave. He owned nothing, had no status, yet he lived with a level of freedom many powerful men never experienced. He said something that still unsettles people today. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. When someone disrespects you, ask yourself honestly, who is really in control at that moment? Is it the person speaking or the emotion rising inside you? Most people believe respect is something others give them, but the Stoics believed respect begins with self-command. You cannot control what someone says, their tone, their mood, or their intentions, but you can control your response, and that changes everything. Disrespect always comes from outside you, through words, gestures, silence, or expressions, but it does not harm you immediately. It has to pass through one thing first: your judgment. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, wrote in his private journal that if you were disturbed by something external, the pain is not caused by the thing itself, but by your judgment of it. Think about that for a moment. The words don't wound you, your interpretation does. In the moment of disrespect, there is a decision most people don't even realize they're making. They decide to react. They decide to defend, to prove, to fight for ego. And in that decision, they hand over control. Anger feels powerful, but it is borrowed power. The moment anger takes over, the mind narrows, words become reckless, and the other person gains control over your inner state. Ask yourself honestly, how many times someone has ruined your mood for hours with just a sentence? That wasn't strength, that was permission. The Stoics saw disrespect as a test, not of dominance or pride, but of self-mastery. When someone disrespects you, they are unknowingly asking one question: can I control you? If your voice rises, your emotions rush, or your peace disappears, you've already answered. But the Stoic does not answer immediately. The Stoic pauses. That pause is not hesitation, it is power. Between what happens to you and how you respond, there is a space, and in that space lives freedom. Most people never enter it. They live on impulse, ruled by emotion. The Stoic steps back and asks a different question. Not why would they say this, and not how do I get back at them, but what response preserves my dignity? That question changes everything. Dignity does not come from winning arguments, it comes from governing yourself. Anger hands control to the other person, while calm takes it back. Anyone who can provoke you can control you, but the person who cannot be moved emotionally cannot be ruled. And this understanding is only the beginning, because once you see disrespect this way, it no longer feels like an attack, but an opportunity to remain unshaken. And the one who remains unshaken is beyond control. The first instinct is to take it personally. The mind immediately assumes intention, judgment, and attack. It feels as if the words are aimed directly at your worth. But Stoic philosophy teaches you to slow down and look deeper, beyond the words, beyond the tone, and into the source. Marcus Aurelius wrote that whenever he felt offended, it was not the action itself that disturbed him, but the judgment he formed about it. In other words, what hurts is not what was said, but what you decide it means. The Stoics believed that people rarely act from strength when they disrespect others. More often, they act from weakness. Disrespect is not confidence on display, it is insecurity leaking out. Think about it carefully. People who are calm inside do not feel the need to dominate. People who are fulfilled do not enjoy belittling others. When someone speaks down to you, it often reveals something unresolved within them rather than something lacking within you. Instead of seeing disrespect as an injury, the Stoic sees it as information. A harsh tone, a mocking smile, or a dismissive remark does not reduce your value. It simply reveals the emotional state of the person delivering it. Disrespect acts like a mirror, but it does not reflect you. It reflects the chaos, fear, or frustration inside the other person. Epictetus explained that people do what they believe is right in that moment, even when they act badly. Fear, envy, and insecurity push people to seek control, and when they lack inner discipline, they reach for the easiest form of power they know, trying to take it from someone else. Understanding this does not excuse their behavior, but it frees you from carrying its weight. Once you understand the cause, the insult loses much of its power. Most suffering is created when you personalize what was never personal. The mind says, "They disrespected me," "They don't value me," or "They think I am weak." But Stoicism invites a sharper question. Is this really about you? If a stranger insults your intelligence, does your intelligence actually change? If someone mocks your journey, does your discipline disappear? Their words do not alter reality unless you allow them to. You would not take life advice from someone who has not mastered their own life, so why accept emotional judgment from someone who has not mastered their emotions? Marcus Aurelius often imagined the lives of those who angered him, their upbringing, their fears, their limitations, not to pity them, but to see clearly. When you see clearly, resentment fades. A barking dog is not insulting you, it is acting according to its nature. Many people behave the same way, only with words instead of noise. Stoicism is not coldness or indifference, it is clarity without surrender. You can understand someone without absorbing their negativity. You can recognize their weakness without becoming weakened by it. Compassion does not mean allowing yourself to be disturbed. When you stop reacting emotionally, something powerful happens. The disrespect loses its purpose. Anger feeds it, but calm starves it. The Stoics were not chasing the moral high ground, they were seeking freedom. Freedom from ego, freedom from validation, and freedom from being controlled by the behavior of others. Your worth is not decided by opinion or tone. It is built through character and consistency. When someone disrespects you, you are not learning something about yourself. You are witnessing who they are. Let them reveal it. You remain steady. In the person who remains steady cannot themselves because they personalize disrespect. The mind says, "They insulted me. They think I am weak. They don't value me." And immediately a story begins to play in your head. But Stoicism challenges this story. It asks a sharper, more difficult question. Is this really about me? Think about it. If a stranger insults your intelligence, does your intelligence actually disappear? If someone mocks the path you've taken in life, does that erase the discipline, the effort, the decisions you've made to get here? Their words do not have that power unless you grant it to them. And every time you allow this, you hand over your freedom. Ask yourself honestly, how many people control your mood without even trying? How often has someone's careless remark ruined your focus, your day, or even your week? That is not strength on their part. That is permission on yours. The moment you react emotionally, they gain power over you. Stoicism teaches that this is the moment where you can reclaim it. Imagine for a second that someone you respect greatly said something disrespectful to you. What would you do? You would pause, think, measure your response. You wouldn't lash out impulsively. The Stoics argue that the same rule applies to everyone, not just the people you admire. Not reacting is not weakness, it is deliberate strength. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, often reminded himself that understanding the source of someone's behavior strips it of its power. People act poorly because it seems right to them at that moment. Fear, insecurity, envy, frustration, all of these push people to lash out, so the insult is not about you, it's about them. The Stoic does not need to respond to every insult. Silence is not avoidance, it is sovereignty. When you remain calm, the disrespect loses its fuel. The one seeking a reaction grows frustrated, while you remain in control. This is why those who are unprovoked are so rarely understood. They are untouchable by chaos. So here's the question for you. How often do you allow your peace to be hijacked by someone else? How often do you give your power away with a single emotional reaction? Imagine the freedom you could feel if you refused to engage with the chaos of others. The Stoics didn't believe in controlling the world. They believed in controlling themselves, and that is the ultimate form of strength. When you see disrespect this way, it no longer feels like an attack. It becomes an opportunity to remain unshaken, to practice patience, to assert your inner authority. The moment you realize this, you begin to understand what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "The best revenge is not to be like them." This is the power of perspective. The insult no longer defines you, the chaos no longer controls you, and the one who cannot be provoked
The moment of disrespect is a crossroads. Most people rush forward. They defend themselves. They argue. They yell. They fight back. And in that moment, they lose. The Stoics teach something different. They teach the power of pause, the strength of silence, and the mastery of measured response. Think about it. Why does a calm person unsettle those who try to provoke them? Because they refuse to react on impulse. They refuse to hand over their peace. In that pause, control shifts. The one seeking to dominate expects a reaction, but none comes. Silence becomes a shield, a weapon, a statement, all at once. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, wrote that the greatest remedy for anger is delay. Not delay to think of revenge, not delay because you are afraid, but delay to regain yourself, to act from reason rather than impulse. That pause is power. It is where the Stoic regains sovereignty over their mind and their emotions. Now imagine a scene. Someone insults you in front of a crowd. The room is waiting for your reaction. Every instinct screams to respond, to defend, to assert yourself. But you take a breath. You pause. You allow the moment to pass without feeding it with emotion. Watch how quickly the energy shifts. The person who sought control over you now feels exposed, confused, unsettled, and all you did was nothing. Silence does not mean weakness. It does not mean avoidance. It means you refuse to give your energy away to someone else's chaos. It is discipline in action. It is freedom in motion. And the best part? The person seeking to provoke you cannot understand it because they are trapped in their own impulse. Have you noticed how some people grow frustrated when their insults or taunts are ignored? That's the effect of measured restraint. When you respond calmly, when you respond deliberately, only when necessary, you take the narrative from them. You define the interaction. You are no longer a participant in their chaos. You are the observer. The Stoics teach that sometimes the strongest response is no response at all, and when a response is necessary, it should be slow, controlled, and intentional, not to dominate, not to hurt, not to prove anything, but to preserve your dignity, to act in alignment with your principles rather than in reaction to someone else's provocation. So here is the question for you. How often do you let impulse dictate your actions? How often do you fight battles that do not belong to you? Imagine the freedom in choosing when to speak, how to act, and when to remain silent. That is true power. That is the way of the Stoic. And once you realize this, the dynamic changes completely. The person who sought to provoke you loses, not because they're wrong and not because you are better. They lose because you refuse to play the game they are playing, and the one who cannot be provoked
Disrespect does not end simply by remaining calm. Sometimes the people around you continue testing, pushing, and challenging your patience, and that is when boundaries become your greatest tool. But here's the Stoic secret. Boundaries are not built with anger. They are built with clarity. They are statements of self-respect, not of aggression. Imagine this. Someone continues to belittle you at work, at home, or even in a conversation online. Most people would lash out or stew in resentment. The Stoic, however, says, "This behavior is not acceptable. I will not allow it to define me or my peace." A simple boundary, clearly and calmly stated, removes the power of disrespect without lowering yourself to their level. Setting boundaries does not mean hate. It does not mean retaliation. It means you are in control. You are choosing who can influence your mind and who cannot. You are deciding what you will tolerate and what you will refuse. And that decision itself creates a quiet authority that commands respect far more than anger ever could. Every moment of disrespect, every insult, every slight, they are training. They are opportunities to strengthen the mind, sharpen patience, and practice resilience. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." The obstacle, the person trying to provoke you, is not a punishment, it is a lesson, a chance to grow stronger, wiser, and unshakable. Think about this carefully. How often do you let the actions of others dictate your mood? How often do you give away your power to people who do not deserve it? Every time you respond calmly, every time you set a boundary without rage, every time you turn an insult into a lesson, you reclaim control. You transform disrespect into strength. And here's the ultimate truth the Stoics teach. Your worth is not voted on by others. It is measured by your character, your choices, and your inner discipline. Disrespect reveals who others are. It does not reveal who you are. The one who cannot be provoked cannot be controlled. So I ask you, what kind of person do you choose to be the next time someone tries to disrespect you? Will you react, or will you rise above? Will you give your peace away, or will you protect it as fiercely as the Stoics did? If this perspective opened your eyes, if it gave you clarity, or if it made you feel stronger just listening, then here's what you should do next. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Every week, we dive into real strategies, stories, and Stoic wisdom to help you master your mind, your emotions, and your life. Remember this, the one who cannot be provoked is untouchable. The one who cannot be controlled walks through life with dignity intact, and that person can be you.